We've been talking a lot about what to expect from the Biden administration, and one of the implications that we are continuing to watch is what happens with big tech and regulation of big tech. And I think it was Amy Wu Silverman, who was on a little bit earlier, who touched on this, that regime might not be a super friendly one for perhaps some of the big tech companies. That's something that you're digging into also, Brian. And, you know, I have to admit a little skepticism here just because we've been talking about this for a long time. That doesn't mean it's never going to happen. But there's been difficulty on the part of Washington kind of getting its arms around this issue.
You're right, Julia. This has been really hanging around for a while. And the way Wall Street is thinking about it, it will also hang around this year and I think serve, at least in their view, and the view of analysts and increasingly, I would say, money managers, given how the stocks have performed year to date, it will serve as a black cloud over a lot of these big cap tech stocks. Namely, it is Facebook, it is Amazon, and Google. And I highlight here some of these points brought forward by BofA Securities analyst Justin Post. Under the new administration, you could see the administration establish a privacy bill of rights, and that restricts the use of personal data. As you know, a lot of these big cap tech companies feast on our personal data. I mean, I have my Amazon Alexa suggesting groceries I should buy now. I don't know if it's a button I have to turn off. Nonetheless, they have that information back at HQ. Kind of creeps me out. Number two, you could see the administration and other Democrats in Congress redefine market power in large cap tech. Number three, regulators could distinguish some of these big cap tech companies as digital utilities. Obviously, that is not good. If you're Facebook, you do not want to be grouped in the same, really the same sphere as an electric company. And then last but not least, and you heard President Trump, before he got kicked off of Twitter, really wax poetic about this, the need to revoke Section 230 of the Communications Act. If that were to happen under this administration, it can open up some of these big cap tech companies to fines, lower sales, pressured costs, and you put all this together, this could mean that dark cloud hangs over these stocks. It may not impact that financial results this year, may not impact it next year, but it could weigh on the multiple some of these richly valued tech stocks could. And then over time, you could just see this trade flat out unwind. These are some of the most owned stocks in the entire market. I mean, you look at Google, 81% of that stock ownership, according to Yahoo Finance Premium data, is owned by institutions. That could be slowly wound down if these regulatory concerns start to pick up steam. And it has remained, I would argue, it does remain a little unclear, where the administration stands on big tech. But by and large, I think Wall Street expects to some degree this administration and even obviously the Senate and the House to pick up the baton where the Trump administration has left off in terms of regulating big tech.
I think that if we look at what happened with Microsoft in the mid-90s, Microsoft was founded in 1975, so 20 years from its founding till it got to its market dominance. They faced an antitrust suit and they ended up settling, and Microsoft went into 15 years of consolidation, I guess you say. You look at the stock. Stock didn't do anything from the height of the tech bubble through 13, 14. Satya Nadella became CEO. Stock hit a new high. Facebook, Google, those companies were founded mid-2000s. So we do a full administration of talking about regulating tech. Everyone's saying, oh, lawmakers don't understand it. What are they going to possibly do? Well, at the end of the first Biden term, or maybe the beginning of the second Biden term, we're going to be talking about 20-year-old businesses. And maybe that means it is time for them to face some sort of new regulatory regime or take it upon themselves to change their business structure in response to anticipated regulatory changes. And I know that it's never fun to say, oh, regulation or lawmakers are going to do this to make a company change, because ultimately the last 40 years of U.S. lawmaking has been about, acceding to corporate demands and saying, you know what, you're right. Business is the thing we need to take care of first. We'll worry about what's fair for our citizens second. I'm not sure that the appetite among voters, however, really remains that way. I think it's kind of mask off now. The 2017 tax cuts were pretty clear to most citizens, even those who did vote for Donald Trump, that people didn't care about you. They cared about big companies. I don't think people have forgotten that. I don't think they're going to forget that. And so I just don't think that we're going to get through the next couple of years with Google or Alphabet, I guess, Facebook, Amazon, operating the same way they do today. I just don't see the path forward for these businesses to continue to completely get away with whatever it is they want to get away with, and then explain it away and spin it, through their comms team, which is usually staffed mostly by lobbyists or former government officials. I just feel like that era is kind of coming to an end for these companies.
Myles, and you are. I'll just quickly add too. You're seeing the market, I think, start to distinguish between potential winners and losers. And you look at Facebook stock trading about 23 times forward earnings on a price to earnings multiple basis. That's almost in line with the broader market. And you talk to a lot of folks on Wall Street, and they're starting to lock in on Facebook, especially in light of what happened on the Capitol Hill. And maybe Facebook is the one over the next 4 years. Maybe, in fact, they are broken up. Maybe WhatsApp is spun off. Maybe Instagram is spun off. And then in turn, what does that create? You've just created two new competitors. I guess that would be part of the main targets of why these companies are split up. But essentially, you have two new competitors competing with ad dollars with Facebook. That's not a good place to be if you're Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I have to wonder, at some point we're going to turn, and I guess we've already started to integrate this question already, we're going to turn from how does the regulation look? Are they going to be broken up? What's going to happen with them? Is Congress going to be able to act? To, is the remedy going to be the right one for what we're trying to target? And I think that's going to be a big question as well. If we break up Facebook, is that going to achieve what we collectively want to achieve? Is it going to give them less control, or are each one of those entities just going to be as powerful? And I think that, unintended consequences are going to be a really important part of this discussion as we go forward.